And the son said to his dad, he said, "Hey, I need to tell you something. I know that you were busy and you made it to all my baseball games. But when I would look over at you in the stands, you were always on your phone." And he said, "Jon, if I could go back and do things differently, what I wouldn't give to go back and not be on my phone." He said, "I thought I was doing the right thing." He said, "It was so hard for me to be at these sporting events. I had to move my schedule all around. But the last step of me actually being there and giving my son not just my physical presence, but giving them my attention, that's what he wanted. My son wanted to feel like he was important." I can tell you personally, I confused my value as a dad with how much I could provide for my family. Even when I was, so career focused, I would have told you that my family comes first. But if you looked at my actions and the decisions that I made, family didn't come first. Wake up on Sunday morning and like I'm the first one to wake up, and my son is laying there like on my shoulder. This beautiful, essentially perfect moment. Like when it comes to being a dad, like what could be better? I don't know how much time it took for me to mentally leave that hotel room and go to work. It feels like it was about 10 or 15 seconds. So I've got my son there. I'm in this perfect moment and I check out of the room. And I start thinking about, okay, well, we've got this big software upgrade, and if it doesn't go to plan, there's going to be all these massive problems, and people are going to be looking to me for the solution. And what am I going to tell them? And just on down the line. I left my job. So I worked for this company for almost 20 years. I started part-time. And at the end, I was a vice president. I made that change because I wanted to just live my life on a completely different path. And I knew that I wanted to help and support people. And that felt like my calling.
Jon, welcome. So good to be talking to you.
Yeah, thank you, Baiva. Happy to be here with you.
So I heard about you from a past guest who mentioned, it was James Callistra, who mentioned that he had taken your course, and I'd love for you to share a little more what it is that you're doing and kind of what prompted you to focus on it.
Yeah. Well, I'll tackle those questions one at a time. So, how about we start with like what it is that I'm doing and like what James went through. James is an incredible human being, by the way. So I'll take this opportunity just to say, like, if anybody is out there and like they're interested in being like a guest on podcasts, if you have like a message to share and you just don't know how to book a podcast, you should look up James Callistra at Wonderfish, because that's what he does. He's remarkably good at it. And he's just an all-around amazing human being. So I wanted to at least say that. And if it weren't for him, we wouldn't be talking right now. So the Engaged Father Project, it is about helping dads take the time and the space to get really clear on the type of dad that they want to be for their kids, because there are so many dads that just feel stretched thin and we're busy and we're trying to provide, and some people are dealing with like how to be a single parent, like they're co-parenting, or how to be a good partner if they have a wife or a partner. And there's just a lot of places for dads to spend their focus and their energy. And oftentimes dads kind of fall into this just default mode of being a parent, right? We do what we see as a kid. We do what we see other dads doing. And a lot of dads are just out there kind of in that, like, I'm a good dad. I'm a good enough dad. Not bad, not the best, but good enough. And so this program is for any dad out there that feels that good enough just isn't good enough. They want to be an amazing father. They want to be a connected and present father for their kids because they understand the importance of all of that. So it really is about helping dads get crystal clear on the type of dad that they want to be, why it's important for them to be that way as a father to help them work through, you know, hurdles or barriers that they think are in the way of them being that dad, and then helping them like start to take steps to get closer to that goal that they have, and to let them feel progress, and to know that they truly can be that dad. Because if we don't do this work, it's my opinion, it's based off of conversations that I've had with other dads, that their kids are grown. If we don't do this, the time will pass us by. And if we are just kind of fighting the battles every day, feeling like we're living this busy and stressful life, eventually our kids will grow up and they're going to leave the house, and we're going to feel like we missed it. And we will have missed an opportunity. We have an absolutely incredible opportunity with our kids while they're still young to establish this connection with them. And I'm not willing to look back later in life and to feel like I missed it. And I help other dads that feel the same way.
Yeah, and that would be a big regret. I can feel that regret. And as you were talking about, the project and what it is, to me, it seems like it's a gateway, it's a doorway or entryway into inner work. Really, you're using kind of the fatherhood. Like I was seeking for years for my purpose, but again, that was a gateway, into diving deeper into that spark, into that questioning. And when you said so many fathers, but it's like people in general settle for that good enough. And it can be in any area of your life. It can be the career, right? Because the noise is loud, right? The demands, the external will keep you busy all day long and all lifelong unless you dive
Mm.
into it. The fatherhood, relationship, or in any of these really areas of life are invitations. Are you going to stay like that surface level, busy, but with that kind of ache on your heart, that kind of call within? Or are you going to listen?
Mm. Yeah, I I agree with everything that you said, and that ache on your heart. Like for the work that I do, the value that I'm offering people, the dads, they have to feel something already, right? Like maybe they've caught glimpses of their kids getting older and they're like, "Whoa, this is going faster than I thought it would." They have to have had some experience, like of, maybe it's regret. Maybe they blew up at their kids because they're so stressed out from work, and they're this all of this emotion that they have inside of them came up and out, and it got inadvertently or unintentionally pointed at their kids, and they walk away feeling like, man, I that's not fair. And like now they have to go into repair mode, and they feel all of the like the sorrow that comes along with that. Like when, and if dads, if you felt that sort of signal, don't brush that off. That's important. And it is easy to be like, that was just a one-time thing, or to justify it as like, oh, I am going through a lot of stressful things at work. And so just pay attention to those signals, because don't take it from me that the regret is heavy. I can relay the message, but it's not me theorizing. I've talked to so many dads that are in their 60s and 70s, and the regret is real, guys. There's one guy in particular. He's in his mid to late 60s, and anybody that would look at his life would say that he is massively successful. He's got successful kids. He's a real estate developer. He's got celebrity A-level connections. From the outside looking in, anybody would say like, "Oh, that guy, he cracked the code." He figured it out. Well, the first time that I met him, when he heard what I did and how I support fathers, within minutes, he was telling me about how much regret he has currently because of how focused he was on building this career. And he cited this story of a conversation that he had with his son, and his son was older. Let's say the son was, like 18 or 20 at this point when they finally had this conversation. And the son said to his dad, he said, "Hey, I need to tell you something. Um, I know that you were busy as a dad, and you made it to all my baseball games. But when I would look over at you in the stands, you were always on your phone. And so even though you were there, I felt like I came second to your work because you were there, but you weren't watching me." And so this successful father carries that with him, and it's just under the surface. He heard what I did, and like I said, within a couple minutes, he's telling me this story. We'd never met before. And he said, "Jon, if I could go back and do things differently, what I wouldn't give to go back and not be on my phone." He said, "I thought I was doing the right thing." He said, "It was so hard for me to be at these sporting events. I had to move my schedule all around, and I thought I was doing the right thing." Mm-hmm. And he said, a lot of it was right. I was doing a lot of the right things, but the last step of me actually being there and giving my son not just my physical presence, but giving them my attention, that's what he wanted. My son wanted to feel like he was important. And so I share all of that just to know, like, as dads, we can feel like we are doing so many things right. And we are. We're trying hard. But it's not just about trying hard. And I can tell you personally, I confused my value as a dad with how much I could provide for my family. I convinced myself that the more money that I could earn, the better dad I was being. We could pay for more things. We could do other experiences. And I was on that path for a while until I realized otherwise. And I needed to, I chose to reprioritize things. Because I would have told you, even when I was, so career focused, I would have told you that my family comes first. Because it's kind of cliche. It feels good to say, but if you looked at my actions and the decisions that I made, family didn't come first. Yeah. They were very, very important to me. I was still a good dad, but I would prioritize my career. And proof of that would be, when I was physically present with my kids, I would mentally be at work solving problems and, figuring out how I'm going to respond to certain situations if they come up. So here are two things that were true at the same time. I would have told you that family comes first, but when I was with my family, I wasn't actually being present with them. My focus was elsewhere. So it took some hard examples, some hard experiences, for me to realize that I was off course with the type of dad that I wanted to be. But I'm grateful. Those moments that I had to go through were incredibly painful, but I wouldn't give them back for anything because it allowed me to see that I wasn't on the path that I wanted to be on. And so I changed. And now here I am extending an invitation to any dad that's out there that just understands how important these days are and these moments are, because we cannot get them back. And if we're putting our focus on other things that ultimately don't matter as much in the long run, we're gonna carry that regret that the other father still carries to this day. And it's just too much. It's too much for me. So here I am.
So if somebody is listening, whether it's a dad or somebody else who wants to share it with, somebody in their life or somebody that they know, how can they find you, and how can they, find the project and learn more about it?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm on social media, so Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, at the Engaged Father Project. But I recently launched an online community, and it's on school.com. It's SKOOL. And it's called the Engaged Father Project. And it's a group of dads that have all raised their hand to say, I understand the importance of all this, and I want to be more intentional as a dad. I want to be more present. I want to be there for the small moments to take them in. I want to create more memories with my kids. And so we're there, we're doing like daily challenges, and it's doing this work with a group of other dads that are aligned. And so we get to do it like with other people, and it's more fun, and there's accountability there, right? Like you start to establish connection with these other dads that you respect because they're doing the same thing. And so all of a sudden, when you say that you're going to do something, when you say like, hey, this daily challenge, I'm going to do it, and you put that out there, now all of a sudden you're like, okay, I need to do this because I care about these people, and it's important that I not let them down. I don't want to let myself down either. And so now you're more likely to go off and do this little daily challenge. And this is just one example, but you're going to go do something different as it relates to how you're showing up as a dad. Maybe you're going to have a different kind of conversation with them. Maybe you're going to do something that lets your kids know that you think about them, even when you're not around them. Maybe you're going to write them this letter that's more like emotionally telling than you've ever been in your whole life, just to let them know how you feel about them. Like these small little things that they're not complicated, but we have to do them. And so when you have accountability of a group, and it increases the likelihood that we're going to do these meaningful things, like that's priceless.
This is how we can heal the world. The Michael Jackson song, Heal the World. I think the work that you're doing is sacred and so needed in this world. And I really appreciate your generosity, how you started out the conversation, even giving the credit to James. And it sounds like it's an absolutely beautiful community that you have and you keep building. So I would encourage anybody, I'll link all the links in the show notes so you can just navigate directly to it. I usually ask this question at the end, but because we were there, I just thought, it's a good opportunity, to share with people. How can people find it, if they're resonating? Because I think so many people will be able to relate to having those thoughts. And when you're talking about a community, it's not like a one time thing, like anything in your life. When you look back, it's like all these moments, right, where they kind of bubble up, that questioning that starts. And it's not just usually in our human, like this world, a one time decision. Okay, tomorrow I'm going to be, and you see yourself fail, like quote unquote, right? Failing and stumbling. And it's kind of like crawling and then trying to walk again. And that's why like what you're doing is so beautiful. And when I was talking to James, like before our interview, I was listening to this song, and it's actually by this Belgium artist. So I think it's in French. I don't speak French, but it's this song about Dad, where are you? The translation, I think it's
Mm.
Papa Ute is how you say it correctly. I don't know if you've heard it, but essentially it's by this artist who lost his father in the genocide of Rwanda, I believe. And that song just like it carries the resonance. It carries like a energy where it's like you don't need to understand the words
Mm,
really to feel the outcry for the father. It's like, dad, where are you? And I think so much of the pain that you mentioned, like these things that bubble up, the us not being able to be present comes from our own pains and hurt, and even not having a healthy father figure. And that's why I don't mean it just flatteringly that you're healing the world. I mean, it's like a pain right now, and it's so needed.
mm. Well, thank you for saying that. And I, I agree with you. It feels, I often don't say how meaningful I think this work is because it just seems like heavy handed to feel like, yeah, I am changing the world. But I feel like I've found my calling, my purpose to be here. And, you know, in a way to try to make changing the world like a little bit easier, like a little more palatable or easier to consume. I think about like the generational impact that this type of work can have because it's a lot easier to connect those dots for some people to think that like, hey, I'm going to go change the world with these actions.
Mhm.
And so to think about, the word like opportunity is like always at the tip of my tongue when it comes to being a dad. Like we have these moments and they're fleeting. So that is an opportunity. If we don't grab it, it's going to pass us by. So what is the opportunity? Well, we can break generational cycles, right? What we experience as kids from our parents, we're most likely to just repeat that behavior unless we do something about it. So nobody's perfect. And so, whatever we saw in our parents that was less than perfect, we're probably going to do that with our kids. So, some of the work that I do is like, okay, well, like let's look at those things and how do we make it so you don't just pass those on and that you do something different? And it's like, okay, like that's not that complicated. It's not common, but it's not complicated. So just with that one example alone of breaking this generational cycle, like the opportunity is to like almost point, like our legacy or our family lineage,
Mhm.
like in a certain direction. Like if you kind of just close your eyes and you think about generations that will follow you, maybe it's like 3 or 4 generations out into the future. And it's like you could almost just like point it a direction. If you do nothing, it's probably just going to go straight. But if you're like, I want to point it over here and I want to do it for all these reasons why that are so deeply meaningful to me, and then you do those actions, well, you're changing. It's almost like pulling the lever on a train track to switch it to say like, no, I'm not, it's not just going to go down the tracks that have been pre-laid for me. I want to go over here because it's too important not to. And like if we do that, like there will be kids that never share this earth with us generations from now that have a dad that acts differently because we decided to show up today and do this work. And so if it's our great great grandchildren that we're most likely never going to meet, think about the impact and the ripple effect and that's for me, like that's leaving a legacy. I think, well, I'll just speak for myself. For a long time, I thought like leaving a legacy was monetary, right? Like leaving an inheritance is kind of like what I thought a legacy was. But I now think that and believe that it's way bigger than that. And that is the opportunity. And how cool is it? Like to your point of changing the world, if we can do work today that affects generations that are going to be on this planet 100 or 150 years from now, how cool how cool is that? Like that's what's at stake. Just bigger picture, that's what's at stake. But think about what we can do just with our kids, to like to deepen that relationship, to make it so our kids feel safe and trusted with their dad, and just like what is possible when it comes to the relationship that we have with our kids now. And as they grow up and as that relationship changes, and we just have this like incredible relationship with our kids for the rest of our lives, like that in and of itself is a massive opportunity. So I don't know. I'm sorry if it feels like I always kind of I get on my soapbox, and I tend to get a little bit preachy, and I don't mean to. Um, but this work just means too much to me, and I don't want dads to feel that regret. That regret is waiting for us if we don't take action. And I don't want that for anybody. I don't want that for our kids, and I don't want it for these dads.
Yeah, it's heavy. I mean, I can feel even when you were talking about that gentleman, right, who was checking the external boxes. And I think it's like it's a thought form or conditioning or a program running on our planet, right? That the money provision and provision mainly through material means um, is what then hooks most of the life force and
Mm-hmm.
the attention. And I think it's really hard for everybody, but for men, I can see, that that's kind of like seems like it's a number one, almost like this pressure.
It is. So it is, you know, that kind of, you said it's a program, that way of being and thinking has been really widespread for a long time. And so it's got a lot of momentum to just sort of automatically carry forward. But just because there's a lot of momentum doesn't mean that, we can't break away from that and go in a different direction, whatever that means to us individually. And like what's the risk? Like what's the risk of jumping into a space and figuring out the kind of dad that you want to be? Like even if, let's say that you did this work and you learned that you're doing everything perfectly right now. It's not going to be what you find. But let's say you did. You'd walk away back, okay, cool. I know and I feel inside that I'm doing everything the way that I want to do it. Cool. Like now just keep focusing, just keep doing more of what you're doing. But when we do this work, I promise you, dads, you're going to find things that you don't want to carry forward. But like these things are too close to us. We've been doing it all our lives. So it's so hard to see these things, to see how we respond in stressful situations, or to get an understanding of why we're giving the answers that we're giving. A lot of times it's based in fear, like how we're reacting to something. And when you start to see like how our system is sort of like connected and how one gear turns another, when you start to just see things from a different perspective, all of a sudden different decisions are possible for you. And like that's really what it's all about. Like those hard moments, like when you blow up at your kids because you're stressed, like how meaningful would it be to you and to your kids to not have that happen anymore? Like if you play that out, like what's the cost of not getting your hands around that as a dad? Like what are you teaching your kids? We already talked about how we inherited what we saw from our parents. So the same is true. Our kids are going to inherit what they see in us. And so if we're teaching them that when things get really hard and stressful, that it's okay to just like lash out with, anger or frustration, or whatever, like our kids are going to do the same thing. And when you think about it like that, it's like, okay, I don't, it's now just not about us. It's easy for us as men to be like, okay, I'll shoulder that discomfort and I'll put up with it, but I want better for my family. But when you think about, these are the skills and the ways of handling things that they're going to be doing, all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, I don't I don't want my kids to have to go through what I go through. I don't want them to have to suffer the way that I do when it comes to, stress and conflict and things like that. So there's so much at stake
And how
here.
often do you see, because somebody might be listening and thinking, well, I'm actually doing exactly the opposite. I would never do what my father did, you know?
Mm. Yeah, it's common for people to say that. But over time, I think most people realize if we're honest with ourselves, we see a lot of those characteristics showing up. And it's not just about outward action. Like maybe on the outside, it doesn't look like what we're doing, the same thing as our dads. But what about the way that we think about things or the things that we tell ourselves to be true? Like a lot of times those inward ways of thinking, we're going to mirror what we saw in our parents. And some could be valuable. And so it's when you identify something that is truly valuable, it's like, okay, great, cool. Now you know what you want to double down on and lean into. But you're going to find things that just don't line up with the way that you want to parent your kids. And it's so meaningful to be able to target those things because now it's like, okay, cool. I know what this thing is. Now my radar is going to kind of be up for, I'll catch myself when I'm doing these things that I've identified. And then as you do that, then you start to become aware of the situations when you would typically respond this way. So now instead of just catching yourself in the act and saying like, oh, there's that thing again, I don't want to do that. Now you become aware in situations where it's like, oh, this is the type of situation where I typically, boil over and act out of stress. So because I know this is that type of situation, I'm going to do X, Y, or Z. I'm going to take a couple breaths. I'm going to give myself a little bit of space because I know that like my tension is going up. And I know that when my tension goes up, I don't like the outcome. And so you can make a different decision. And so like in that little slice of time, we're kind of pulling that lever on the train tracks to say like, oh, here's that thing again, but I want to go over here because I don't want to have to repair with my kids. So like it's right there. But we have to do the work. Like, again, what I just explained is not complicated, but it's not easy. And it's not something that just happens automatically.
So it's almost like you are crafting or intentionally designing the timeline. And that is the legacy, really, is your experience with kind of father, what kind of parent, right? You want to be, what kind of relationship you want to have instead of going on the autopilot.
Yes. The train tracks are there, folks. They're going off into the future.
Yeah.
And if you don't take action, you're just going to cruise on down the tracks. I think people call that drifting, people call that autopilot, whatever label you want to throw on it, whatever feels right, go ahead. But you have to, well, you don't have to. You have an opportunity to decide that you want to do something different. And if you do, you got to make the choice and you got to take some action. And if you choose to not take action, then realistically, you're telling yourself that you are okay with this sort of autopilot way of doing things. Are you familiar with a band named Rush at all? They're from Canada.
No, I'm not.
They were around like a while. They were popular in like the 80s and 90s. But like there's a lyric in a song that says, if you choose not to decide, you have still made your choice. So it's like if you're hearing this message and you're like, yeah, I hear you, but I don't think I need to change or I don't see the value in that, then you're choosing to just stay on the course that you're on. And I'm not here to convince anybody. The work that I do, it's an invitation. It's an invitation to people that have either felt the pain and they don't want to feel it again, or they have an understanding of the regret that's waiting for them if they don't take action. And so it's for those people that have already felt some of those signals, and they're like, okay, it's time. Let's
When
let's do things differently.
when do you find that men turn to you? When do you feel that they actually listen to that signal and decide to do something about it? Is there some sort of themes or connections that you found?
It's either they start to have a sense of time running out, or they've experienced enough pain and suffering to know that they would have make some different choices. And so the time thing is tough because inherently we think we have more time with our kids than we actually do. And you said your child is 16, correct?
Yeah.
So there's a statistic that gets, kind of tossed around, and it's, obviously it's going to vary, family to family and household to household, but it said that by the time our kids turn 12, that we've already spent 75% of all of the face-to-face time that we're ever going to get with them. Like at 12. And by the time they turn 18, that percentage jumps up to 90%. Um, and that's alarming. So like that is a signal that people hear, and they're like, okay, I thought I had until they were 18, like until they are kind of moving on to that next stage of their life. It's easy to point to that period because they graduate high school and then they go off to college. That's a lot of people do anyhow. So that's a easy to comprehend timeline. But the reality is, like, when it comes to actual time that we have with them, and time, like I think about our kids kind of being like a wet ball of clay. Like the window for that clay to be like malleable and moldable, that goes way faster than 18. And that's sort of like that statistic where it's like, okay, like at 12, like you already spent 75% of all the face-to-face time. 75% of your opportunities to model positive behavior for how we handle life's situations, for how we handle stress and conflict, 75% of those things are behind you by the time your kid turns 12. So that statistic is really good at giving a sense of urgency to this work, because a lot of guys tend to say like, I'll get to that thing next. I'm so focused here at work, this next promotion, this next financial milestone, or whatever it may be. Like maybe they understand the importance of, doing this type of work and changing how they're parenting. But it's like, I'll get to that here soon. I still have some time. And the truth is they don't. So there's that time aspect. And then there's the pain, right? There's the experience of, I don't want to feel this way anymore. And that's what mine was. I didn't, I became, I hit a tipping point where I wasn't comfortable being as like, unaware and not being present with my kids. And also my frustration, my stress and anxiety from work being unfairly pointed at my kids, and me experiencing that and just saying like, that's not who I am, and that's not how I want to be as a dad. So like I got to make a change here. And my path to get here has been a bit of a journey, and I didn't find a program for fathers. And so I created the Engaged Father Project for that version of me 3 years ago that so desperately, wanted and needed it. So if anybody else, if any of that is ringing true for people, then let's talk.
So what was that tipping point? Kind of, can you share a little more? Kind of what was that? Okay, that now I need to do something about it, and I'm gonna actually choose to do something about it.
Yeah, we were on like a little family getaway. just over a weekend, and wake up on Sunday morning, and like we stayed in a hotel, and like my daughter slept in like one of the beds with my wife, and my son slept in the bed with me, and wake up on Sunday morning, and like I'm the first one to wake up, and my son is laying there like on my shoulder, and it was just like this incredible moment. He was like 5 or 6 at the time. This beautiful, essentially perfect moment. Like when it comes to being a dad, like what could be better? Like we spent the day before at an amusement park, and just like it was perfect. And the kids had so much fun and all these things. And I wake up, I got my son there, and it's perfect. And what I don't know how much time it took for me to mentally leave that hotel room and go to work. It feels like it was about 10 or 15 seconds, because there was this huge stressful work project going on at the time that I was responsible for. And so I've got my son there. I'm in this perfect moment, and I check out of the room, and I start thinking about, okay, well, we've got this big software upgrade, and if it doesn't go to plan, there's going to be all these massive problems, and people are going to be looking to me for the solution. And what am I going to tell them? And just on down the line. And it was that moment in particular was jarring for me. It was so unaligned from how I wanted to be as a dad that I was able to see that I was doing it. Now I'm sure there are countless instances very similar to that I just don't remember, because I wasn't aware that it was happening. But this one, like the moment that was in front of me was so perfect. And then the pain of me putting myself into this like disastrous work situation and trying to troubleshoot that, like it was such a jump in such a short period of time, to where I was able to see like, whoa, like what's going on here? Like why something's wrong. If I can't be in this perfect moment with my family for more than 20 seconds without my job basically pulling me out of this moment, then something's up. And that was that was a moment that I'll never forget for sure.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that, because it's through these you sharing your own story, right? How the project essentially came to be and your own moments. I think that's where people most connect with and connect the dots for themselves,
Mm.
right? If there is that spark, that questioning that is trying to come online. And what would you say did you change from that moment on to, when you started the project, or even up until now? What have been the biggest changes that you've made in your life?
I would say it's two things. One, it's I am constantly scanning for ways that I can improve how I'm showing up as a dad. Not to be critical, but like I'm just always looking, knowing that I'm going to make mistakes. I'm a human being. But now I'm like actively scanning for, it's like, oh, like I probably could have done that differently. So there's like this ownership of kind of where I'm not showing up the way that I want to, and just paying attention to that and be like, oh, okay, that's a thing. I see that it happened. I'm going to do it differently or better next time. So I'm kind of like actively scanning for things that aren't aligned with the way that I want to show up for a dad, as a dad. And then like the other side is more proactive. So the first thing is reactive, kind of catching things maybe as or after they happened. But the flip side of the coin is being proactive with things, and just these moments of time where I just ask myself, like, I wonder what my kids want or need from me right now. And, or like, I wonder, like, what can I do right now to let them know, like, truly how much they mean to me? And like one really small, silly example was, I went to the bus stop to meet my daughter as she was getting off the bus, and I grabbed her a little piece of candy, and I took it with me. And she got off the bus, and I just held my hand out and I just handed it to her. And like she just looked up at me. She's like, thank you. You're welcome. And so it's trivial, but for that to have happened, she knows that I'm thinking of her. And like before I just kind of rushed out the door to go meet her at the bus stop, I thought, what's something that I can do that's just going to bring a smile to her face or to let her know that I'm thinking about her? And I stopped and I kind of thought for a second. I was like, oh, she loves these cookies and cream Hershey's Kisses. So I'll grab one and I'll give it to her. And so it's like these small little signals, and just I'm I'm stopping and I'm asking myself, like the type of dad that I want to be, what would he do right now? And like those moments are obviously they're meaningful for our kids. It's easy to understand the positive impact that that will have. But as the dad, like I've now created a moment in time. Like I've got this win because I stopped and I asked myself a question and I took intentional action. And so I'm creating all these like little memories for myself that when I get older, when I'm 80 years old, and every time I do this, I'm 80 and I'm sitting on a dock and there's some water out in front of me and there's like some trees in the background, and I'm reflecting back on these very times with my kids. Right, life is busy and stressful and hectic, and there's sports and school activities and all these things, but I'm looking back on these moments and I know for a fact that I did an incredible job as a dad. Was I perfect? Absolutely not. But did I try every single day to get better than I was the day before? Yeah. And I already know now what that will feel like then. And I'm going to be proud. And I'm going to know that I didn't leave the opportunity on the table, that I truly did what I could to be the best dad that I could be. And that's the legacy that I want to live. And that's done day by day. Small moments can get you there. And just as another quick example, I met a mother a couple weeks ago, and she and her husband, well, her husband is struggling because both of their kids have left the house and they're at college. And so she's telling me about all of the struggles that the dad is going through because he feels like he missed the opportunity and he's struggling to deal with it. And the wife is really able to see very clearly that the father was like really focused on work and that's why he's feeling this pain right now. But then she goes on to tell me, she's like, John, I even wonder like if I did enough. And I've had conversations with her before, and she was and still is like amazingly involved with her kids. They're at college now, but she's like doing all of these things for them to help them and to support them. And so that if she still feels that way, if she's still looking back, wondering if she did enough, what that tells me is that it's not about how much we do necessarily, because she did a lot and she's still doing a lot. But what if instead of just doing a lot for all those years, what if she would have been doing those things through the lens of being intentional? Because now, like I did that little moment where I grabbed a piece of candy for my daughter getting off the bus, like I walked away from that experience knowing that like I helped create it. And that I don't, I won't lose that. And those things build. And it's like I'm collecting thousands of these moments as my kids grow up. And I'll have those thousands of moments to look back on when I'm older. And it's almost like I can touch them. It's these collections of moments that were a result of me taking intentional actions for my kids. And so it's not just about what we do. It's about knowing that we created these little things. And I just her story really helped solidify how important it is to be being intentional, it's the same thing as being present and aware. Like, to me,
Mhm.
those words are all interchangeable. And so it's not about how much we do. She was an incredible mom. She still is, but
Mhm.
she still questions if she did enough. So what do we do to combat that? We create 1,000 memories of moments where we were intentional, and now we look back on that, and then we don't have to question it.
Yeah, because even with the father story that you shared, who had gone to the games, right? Who and even I can relate, like I did go to the field trips. I did pick up my son after school, not putting him in another daycare, but it's a presence. It is you actually being there versus the story that you described that your life force, your attention is caught up in something else. So what allowed you to go from when you said in 10, 15 seconds, right? You kind of like physically you're there, but you're, everything else, your mind and your attention is focused on work, right? It's like being sucked up. What allowed you to go from that to the intentionality and the presence you're describing?
Getting an understanding of how my mind worked. So when I was going through, a bunch of challenging moments at work and in my career, I kind of accidentally found a life coach. Um, I did a search on YouTube for like a meditation about stress and anxiety, because stress and anxiety were taking a very real toll on me, to the point where I had a panic attack, and there were signals where I knew that I needed to make some changes. And I'd had some experience with meditating, but like I was like, okay, I need to make some changes here. So I did a YouTube search, found this meditation. At the end, this gentleman, his name is David Elzy. He's one of the most incredible human beings that I've ever met to this day. His website was on there, and so I checked out his website, and I saw that he did like, complimentary 30-minute discovery calls, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I can talk to this person that just helped me out so much. Like, yeah, I'll do that. And we talked, and I worked with him, and he helped me to understand, like, when I said earlier about getting an understanding of like how mechanically like our thinking and our thoughts excuse me, are kind of interconnected, and how our feelings ultimately lead to our actions. He helped me get an understanding of how things were so interconnected, and now I can, instead of just sort of feeling like I was at the mercy of like all of my emotions, like I was just being sort of like whipped around, and like I was at the end of this whip, just kind of like going all over, and it just felt like really violent and turbulent. I was able to connect the dots as to why I was feeling that way. And once you get an understanding of why you're having that experience, it's like, it's enlightening, right? It's like, oh, like, yeah, no wonder I feel so stressed out and anxious. It's because that I believe that all my inherent value as a dad is tied up and connected to how much money I can make right now. And if I'm not making enough money, I feel like I'm failing as a dad. So instead of just feeling like a failure, you could start to see like, oh, well, I've connected my value as a dad to dollar signs. But once you can kind of take a look at that and be like, well, is that true? Like, do I need to make more money to be a good dad? Well, no, I don't think so. I can change my behavior like in the moment with my kids, and like that would make me a better dad. And I didn't have to go earn more money or get a promotion to do that. So it was what made it, to answer your question, what made it possible for me to start making those different decisions was for me to really become aware of what I believed to be true about myself and what I believed to be true about what makes a great father.
Wow. And what did you change in your work, if anything?
Well, and this is, I always try to be like a little bit cautious. I left my job. So I worked at this company for almost 20 years. I started part time. And at the end, I was a vice president of like this of an incredible company. And I ended up leaving my job. And I want to sort of caution everybody that I'm not telling people that they need to make a drastic change. I made that change because I wanted to just live my life in a completely different path. And I knew that I wanted to help and support people. And that felt like my calling. But it's not about necessarily making more time with our for our kids. If we have the ability to do that, that's great and we should. But there is a tremendous amount of value in just making more out of the time that we already have with our kids. And so that would be the example of really being present when we're with our kids. And like an awesome place to start is with our phones, being really mindful of devices and not putting those things in as an actual barrier between our face and our kids, because these phones, they are designed to keep our attention. And so if we're not really conscious of it, we're going to end up having a conversation with our kids like they're trying to tell us something and we're got like one eye on the phone and like one eye on them. What's the message? What are you really saying to your kids in that moment? And I would say you're telling them they're not quite as important as whatever is on your phone. And if that makes you uncomfortable as a parent, good. Like it should. And so make some changes, get some boundaries, find a place. One of the guys that went through the 8-week program that I offer, he created something called the no phone zone. And his kids' bedrooms were in the upstairs level of their home. And he would set his phone on the banister and he would never take his phone upstairs. And because that's where playtime would happen with his kids. He'd go build Legos with his son, and his daughter was younger. He would just go up there and have tummy time with his daughter. And he just got clear. Like, I can't take my phone up there because I know what happens when I do. So there are ways, there's changes that people can make like today on that. Another one, like beyond technology, is just getting really clear on how we want to enter a room or how we enter our home after a day's work, and being intentional with that. If we're not intentional, we're going to carry all of our stresses from our day into our family, and we can know what that outcome is like. Think about anybody else walking through a door and they're just wearing all of this stress and frustration on their face versus somebody walking through the door and they've got like this calm excitement about them. Like, those are two really different examples. It doesn't take a lot to do that. You have to be intentional. If we do nothing, if we stay on autopilot, we're going to carry our stress through the door. But if we decide that we don't want to do that, now all of a sudden we have an opportunity to come up with a routine for how we enter our house. And there's one father that's in the online community. He's in the military. He takes his boots off at the door before he walks in. And it is like a physical act that he's doing. And he tells himself, I am leaving work out here in my boots. And like his job is super stressful right now, being in active duty in the military. But he's like, my boots stay in the garage, and all of my work problems stay in the garage with my boots. And when I go in the house, he has physically created a routine where he is stepping out of that role and he's stepping into intentional father mode, engaged father mode. And like magic happens as a result of that. But again, like we have to have a plan.
That's so beautiful. And I would think that fathers who go through this process and through this program and community with you, that you probably see changes in their relationships in all other areas of their life as well.
100%. The You touched on it earlier that it's a gateway, right? And so all of these principles that we talk about and work on in the program, they can absolutely be applied to other important relationships in our lives. Like, first and foremost is if we have a partner, and like if you start building that muscle of how to be intentional with our kids, we can do the same thing with other people in our life. And so learning these skills in one area and then getting to reapply them in all others, it's like a huge sort of bonus.
It's like a domino. I mean, you're essentially inviting fathers. I mean, it's a healing. And, when you heal yourself, you're healing, different areas of your life. Like it's impacting your kids and all around.
You're absolutely right.
So it's beautiful, beautiful work. How often do you find, I would say, speaking for women, and I think a big problem that I've seen in this world is actually avoidance of fathers, avoidance of men, like what you were talking about. We all have it to an extent where, no matter what area of our life, even, in jobs that are stressful, right? We're just like, okay, I'll just deal with that later. I know there's something on my heart calling for more, but we just stuff it down, stuff it down. But like real, like avoidance of presence, right? Avoidance of like that will go away, or I'll just withdraw myself. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah. Well, avoidance feels pretty good in the short term, because we have something that's painful to look at and consider. And so we've got a couple options. We can push it off and we can avoid it. And in the short term, it's like, whew, I had this heavy thing and I just kind of shoved it over there. And it's like, okay, glad I don't have to deal with that. Or we can lean into it. And really, we have to have an understanding that we can make our decision based off of either short term consequences that we're chasing or long term impact. And when it comes to facing things that we're doing currently as a dad that we know don't feel right, it can it can be hard to sort of mentally prepare to say like, okay, I'm going to face these things. That it's uncomfortable and it can hurt in the moment, and there can be a lot of shame and regret that we have to like encounter and sort of like really confront eye to eye. And it's not fun. It's not fun all the time. But when you have an understanding, when you stop and analyze, like, what is the cost if we don't do this? And you get an understanding of like what's really at stake, then it's like, okay, I know this has to be done. Like, there's so many dads, like, if you took a poll of dads and asked them, like, would you be willing to step in front of a bullet for your kids? Like, it would be almost 100% would be the reflexive answer that dads would give. And I think they truly would, right? Like, there's something very honorable about saying I would sacrifice for my kids. And I truly believe that they would. I don't think it's just lip service. But how many dads are willing to confront the patterns and behaviors that they are doing that they know aren't right, instead of just justifying them? They'd say, yeah, I shouldn't. I yell too much. Or I'm emotionally disconnected from my kids. I let my wife handle the emotions. I don't want anything to do with that. How many of those dads would say, you know what? I'm going to go through the discomfort of confronting all of those things, getting an understanding of why I feel that way, and then making new decisions when it comes to those things. It's discomfort. And once you understand that what's waiting for you on the other side of that is way too meaningful not to do it, then all of a sudden what seems hard and scary just feels like it's the right thing to do.
And what is waiting on the other side? I was thinking as you were talking about it, and like there's like the truth is there, and I'm like thinking carrot and the stick, right? So uh, there's a lot of, like you said, the heaviness and the long-term implications and that pain and the ache. What have you found on the other side, like walking through, right, that darkness?
Long term, what's waiting is 80-year-old me sitting on a dock feeling so good about what I did. But that's hard to, that's hard to quantify for people. So, like short term,
Yeah, what have you experienced, right? Like really in your real life, day to day.
a stressful moment in the household, kids doing kid appropriate things, tensions are high, maybe the kids are fighting, whatever. Handling a hard situation in a different way than you have in the past. Like, let's say like for me, there's been times where it's just like, oh, I want to yell. Like, this is hard. The kids are not, they're not acting the way that they know that they should. I want to raise my voice. Like, there's it for me, it feels like this gravitational pull where it's like, oh, all of these things are happening. It would feel so good to just raise my voice and just like shut it down. And it's like, I'm not proud of yelling, but it just feels like what I want to do. And I can even justify why I do get to allow myself to yell. And I feel like my brain's always working in like metaphors, but it's like this gravitational pull. And I'm like something that's going through space and it's like, oh, it's pulling me into this, like this pattern and this history of yelling. But then it's like, okay, do I really want to do that? Is that going to accomplish what I want it to in the long term? Or like, how cool would it be if I show my kids in this moment that I can handle stress and conflict without raising my voice? And you kind of like pull out of this gravitational field and go a different direction. And like when you do that, like, and it doesn't get old. Every time that I feel like that old tendency, and you start to get better at it, like you build that muscle and you can start to increase your awareness of like when this is going to happen. But especially that first time when you're like, oh, I would have always done the yelling, but like I felt myself pull out of this and like go in a different direction. You feel like you're on top of the world. It is, by definition, that is life changing. You did the work to change your behavior in that moment. And that moment is your life. You changed your life in how you handled that one situation. And that feeling, like it's almost intoxicating because it's like, oh my God, like I can do this. And how, like, then you're sitting back, you're like, oh my gosh, like I handled conflict and I didn't have to raise my voice like I've done for so long. And then you play it out like, oh, how cool is it that I'm teaching my kids that there's another way? We don't have to like raise our voice and use force to communicate like how we're feeling inside or how to achieve a desired outcome. Like how cool is that? Like I'm modeling the hard thing for my kids. Like the easy thing is to yell. It's easy to yell. Like, come on, dads. Like that's not the way. Like if you're honest with yourself, that's not the path forward. Brute yelling force with our kids. Show them you can do it the hard way and teach them that the hard way is the right way. And yeah, I
I
did
love
it
that.
again. I got on my soapbox again, Biba. I'm
I
sorry.
love that. No, but that is so good because that is how you heal the world, because then it's a multiplier, right, of your actions. Is like what you literally change the trajectory of your own rocket ship. And this is a part of my purpose, or like at the foundation of my purpose is really to remind people you are more powerful than you can ever imagine. And it's not in the taking, your kids to this exotic vacation or to do all these things. It's in these moments, exactly what you described, where that timeline, like a whole new timeline, a whole new legacy, a whole new playing out of your experience and your kids' experience is created. Because what you described, I can relate myself. How many times I wanted to force my will, and the more stressed or busy or less resourced I was, right, the more noise there was running in me, in my energy, in my soul, like mucking up the signal. The more entitled, right, the quicker I was to force my way, to force my will. But what you're describing, those moments, and I've seen it with my son, how when I like hold it back, like shush, we go back, like we rewind a little bit before like already lashing out, right, going full force, full mission on this, is that how also different different possibilities, different resolutions, a completely different outcome is available and is created when you redirect yourself. And that is when it starts with you. And then the less I forced my will, the less I decided that I'm this entitled person. I know better. I know exactly how this should play out, or how they should act, or what they should do, or how, he should speak to me. Then when I just like bring it back, then he willingly wants to bring in the groceries, right, from the car. Then
Yeah.
he willingly, like when I'm not forcing like some sort of like, I think we should spend time together, go for a walk. Like you said, we will go for a walk, or kind of these mundane, right, day to day things. Is then he will come to me, oh, let's, play a game, or, and it's a whole different world, a whole different era
Yeah.
that you can step into, and every day is a possibility, an invitation. And that's why I love your invitation, and I also like the lightness in your energy. And that's where you can also, when you bring back your own life force from giving it to everything else around you, right, then you can create that lightness, that play, and a whole better day to day.
Oh, that's so well said, Biba. That's perfect.
Mm. Thank you. I mean, I think it's definitely not relegated, or whatever is the right word. Sometimes the foreigner in me still comes up. I know that word, but I'm not exactly 100% sure I'm using it in the right way.
I think you
But
are.
it's not, obviously it's a human struggle and experience. And is there anything that I didn't ask you that you wanted to share before we wrap up?
No, Biba, I think this conversation was so fulfilling for me, and like I light up. What any chance that I get to have this conversation in hopes that it lands on the ears of some dad that's just like, okay, like now's the time. Like that's what lights me up. So if you're hearing this, let's talk. Let's just have a conversation. I'm not going to try to put a big sales pitch on you. I don't want to sell people on this. That doesn't work. I don't want to convince somebody to come do this work. But if you're feeling it and you're like, okay, I want to do this work. Like, I want to do it. I just don't know how to do it. Like, if you're thinking that, let's talk. And I can tell you how. And maybe it's the right thing. Maybe it's the right thing and it is the right time. Great. we'll do it, and you're going to make massive change, and you're going to wish that you would have done it sooner, and you're going to tell the people around you how incredible this thing was. But like, if it's not the right time, that's also okay. Maybe there'll be another time down the road. Like, there's so many messages and signals that we hear, but sometimes they just take time. Maybe it's the 15th time that we hear something where it really sinks in, or maybe we're just more ready to hear that message. So, maybe it's not the right time. We don't have to force it, but if you're hearing this, if it's the right time. And my ask of you, just don't dismiss it. Just don't. It means too much.
And listen to yourself. Validate that knowing. Don't overlook it. How can women who are hearing this conversation and see it, whether it's in their partners and their children's fathers, right? They know a person that they need exactly that. But sometimes men are not very open to kind of like, hey, I think you should read this book, or I think you should do this. How can they have that conversation?
It's a good question. And I can't even pretend to know that answer. I think the person on the receiving end of that has to be ready and willing to receive that message and not get defensive about it. So I think everybody is uniquely different, and not everybody is okay with hearing that sort of feedback. So I honestly, I don't know. I think the only thing that I could ever recommend to anybody when it came to delivering a message that feels like hard but important is just to do it from a place of nothing but pure love and understanding. Not telling somebody, I think you should do this. I think a lot of times it's going to just put people back on their heels. But if you deliver something from a place of just nothing but like deep love and understanding, and like only each person can decide what that's actually going to look like when they do it. But I just think that is the highest likelihood that the message will be received the way that it's intended.
Is there like a video or like a YouTube video, or I don't know, somewhere that we can include in the show notes that like gives like a 1 minute or a couple minute overview of what the project is, for anybody like to share a short thing like that?
So like on my website, on the engagedfatherproject.com, there's a quick little video that gives like a high level overview of how I do the work that I do. But I'll take your question is brilliant, and it's probably something that would be worthwhile for me to put out there, because it's something that would potentially help people bridge that gap. So there is a video out there, but I'm going to put serious thought and consideration into your question and come up with something even better.
So if you do, because what was coming to me as we were talking is that I might release this like right around Father's Day. This conversation, it just feels like it would be one of very good timings. And if you do come up with something, please share, that link, and I'll include it in the show notes. So it's super easy to navigate. Because I was thinking, is it worth giving your program, right? You said the 8-week program as a gift, but we kind of bump against that kind of like that it has to be something self-initiated and free will.
I love it. I love it.
Yes. Well, I love the conversation, Jon. It was
Me too, Viva.
Yes, it's so amazing to meet you. Obviously, from James Callistra, he's a beautiful human being, and so it only speaks to the community you have, the level of people that you attract, right? That you're collaborating with, and that anybody who joins would have to be or would be surrounded by, because so much of this journey is of us also seeing different possibilities, different examples, even different practices, like you said, And I think the deeper thing is that these men are witnessing, like you're being witnessed by somebody else who has a sincere heart and who's on this journey. And a lot of the pain is coming from trying to do it, like to hold it all together by ourselves.
It's a lot. It's a lot to do it alone. So, to your point, you don't have to go it alone if you don't want to. If that's your thing, do your thing. But just know there are other ways to do it, and it can be more fun. You can do it with support. You can do it with higher internal accountability, and all of those things just increase our odds of success. So, in my opinion, I want everything that I can do that's going to increase my likelihood of success. I want to do, and so for me, doing it in community, doing it in a small group, is the answer. But it's not for everybody. And when I run through when I take people through my 8-week program, it is designed to be done in a small group. But I've also taken people through individually. That's because they have scheduling needs or they're just not comfortable going through it in a group. Like it's also available one-on-one, and I mean the benefits are still there.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that's an important point, and sometimes we need that one-on-one. I know that for my own, I mean, it's a different, journey, not necessarily about the parenting, but it was really like I walked this devotional, spiritual path for activating my own soul and essence and clearing a lot of, this noise and kind of the external, like everything that creates these stresses, in us. And there's not like when I really accelerated was when I worked with the right person one on one.
Mm.
And like I just saw huge shift. So that is so, so good to know, and it's so important. I think it's so important not to try to do it all on your own.
I'm with you there.
Thank you, John, so much.
Oh, thank you, Baba. This has been fantastic. I can't thank you enough for the opportunity. And yeah, I look forward to staying in touch.